friends, and welcome to the Topic 8 exam review video. I think you'll find this video very helpful. Please stick around to the very end because some important things are going to be revealed. So basically, you've gone through and completed all these answers on the study guide. We do know that Rome switches over to a republic. We know Octavian takes over. He becomes the first emperor, Augustus. One of the things you should know about him is the reforms that he makes ends up helping the Romans. Considered one of the best emperors and the first. After his death, he was made a god. Once his stepson Tiberius took over, Rome now is a monarchy and no longer a democracy, no longer a republic. Succession is the person who comes next, and because there were no rules, oftentimes there was some backstabbing and some behind-the-scenes scheming going on between people of the royal family. Trajan, you need to know, conquered new territories. Hadrian built walls to protect Roman lands. Aurelius is on the test. He wrote a very famous book. He was also a very popular leader, and Nero was the opposite, very unpopular leader, and was very awful to the Christians. You do need to know about the Pax Romana, which is a 200-year period of Roman peace. The borders are important to know. The Danube is in the north, Atlantic to the west, deserts, especially the Sahara, to the south, and the only room for expansion was the east. But the problem is these guys, the Sasanian Persians, and they're from modern-day Iran, and they caused trouble for the Romans pretty much throughout. All roads lead to Rome. You do need to know about the roads. So the major road system was built originally for soldiers, but then it helped the spread of trade, it's helped the spread of ideas, and then later on helped the spread of Christianity. Some of those roads are still used today. Roman roads were very well built. You need to know the Romans invented concrete. It's a building material. It was easier to work with concrete than stone because it required less skill. You basically pour concrete into a form, it hardens, and you're done. You take the form away. Those of you that have seen concrete poured anywhere know that's how this works. You make a form to pour it in. Concrete goes in like sort of soupy, and then it hardens. There's a chemical reaction, it makes it harden, and then you remove the forms. If you've ever seen a sidewalk poured or a patio porch poured, you know what I'm talking about. What else did Roman soldiers need to build in addition to domes? Large sturdy bridges. The Romans did invent the archways. An aqueduct, channel brings water over land. Some characteristics, just you need to know that they used gravity. Aqueducts worked on gravity. Public fountains, wealthy people had them connected to their homes. Public baths in the sewers. You know about the bathhouses were very popular. You need to know that the base of the Roman economy was farming. It was an agricultural society. You do need to know about stable currency. System of money doesn't change much in value over time. Roman currency was very stable for a long period of time. Ours is a stable currency at this point, United States money. We do know that Jesus was a Jew. He lived in the Middle East during the Pax Romana. The Romans did execute him, but a new religion called Christianity was based on his life. The Jews did not like that the Romans were in charge of their lands. They wanted rid of them, and they were hoping for a Messiah, someone who would save them from oppression. Christians would look at Jesus as a spiritual Messiah, where I believe that some of the Jews, especially the Zealots, were looking for a military Messiah as well. The Zealots were the people who were refused by force. What do we know about Jesus' early life? How do we know about them? It's because of the Gospels, which are the first books of the Christians refer to as the New Testament. This is on the test. Christians believe that Jesus is descended from King David in a long line of generations. King David. Jesus was somebody that was a champion of the poor and the outcast, something that was not the case that was going on in the Middle East at that time. The Romans or the Jews, people were just taking care of their own business. They weren't tending to the needs of others, and so Jesus was new in that line of thinking. Two important commandments: love God all your heart, neighbor as yourself. Jesus went to Jerusalem to celebrate Passover. You do need to know about Pontius Pilate. He was the Roman governor of Judea. He is the one that had Jesus arrested and eventually had him crucified. Christians believe that Jesus was resurrected from the dead after 3 days. The person in charge of the new church was Peter. You do need to know about Paul. You need to know that he was an important missionary, is really the most important thing about him. This is an essay question on the exam, number 16. This is important to know. 3 factors that helped the spread of Christianity. 1, the roads were very well built and safe. The seas were safe for travel. 2, The scriptures were written in Greek, and large numbers of people, especially on that side of the empire, spoke it. It was translated to Latin later. And then the ideas appealed to many people, like the idea that everyone is equal in God's eyes, slaves, the poor, women. This is something the people that were like considered lower class people or secondary citizens in the empire. And guess what? There were a ton of them. Well, half the population were these guys, and then there were a ton of these guys too. So, it appealed to them for sure. So, good roads allowed safe travel. They appeal to the poor, common language, and then also if you want to add in the beliefs of the Christian martyrs willingly having themselves be killed for the faith, also helped to strengthen and unify it. So this is one of the essay questions here. Why did Christianity worry some officials? Because they were worried that the gods would get mad at them. Nero blamed the Christians on fire on the Christians. Here's the martyr, someone who died for their beliefs. I know that's on the exam. Constantine was the first Christian emperor because he had that dream. That's on the exam as well. He's on there. Christians added to the Hebrew Bible, and some Jews did not like that. So this is where this first split is going to occur. Christians refer to the Hebrew Bible as religious, as part of their religious faith, but now they're going to refer to it as the Old Testament. Books were written then, about I think 27 of them, about the New Testament, which Christians refer to, the life of Jesus. It's important that it was written in Greek because it was the most widely spoken language. The Gospels were the first 4 books of the New Testament. Parables are on the exam. Religious stories with a lesson or a moral. Epistles, formal letters, I don't think that's on there. Paul wrote a lot of these letters, these epistles. Paul wrote a lot of them. The last book is the book of Revelation. It describes the end of times. Jesus' death proved to early Christians that he was human, but also the idea that he came back to life is that he was godlike. Christians believe that whatever you do in your life, your soul is, I guess whatever happens to it depends on what kind of person you were. Here's the Trinity. I think the Trinity is on the exam as well. Christians believe Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, or sometimes referred to as the Holy Ghost. Right, you do need to know some of the Judeo-Christian shared beliefs. One God, similar ethical traditions, 10 Commandments. All right, so let's see. What do I know is on? Greco-Roman culture is referred to on the exam. 3 ways the government helps spread Greco-Romans on the exam. Mosaics on the exam for sure. Statues, you need to know the difference, which the Roman statues were basically real life, what people look like in real life, and the Greek sculptors made them look ideal, at the peak of their lives, very muscular, very good looking. Romance languages I know is on there. You need to know some of the Romance languages and why they're called that. You need to know what an orator is and what oratory is. Cicero's on the exam. I don't believe Virgil or Juvenal are on the exam. You need to know the gladiators fought for entertainment. You need to know Circus Maximus was the horse racing arena. We talked about 12 tables earlier, that it is the laws, the first laws. You do need to know that Romans use civil law, and that here in Louisiana, in the United States, they use common law for federal stuff, but for state stuff, they use Roman civil law. Aurelius, you need to know he was the last of the 5 great emperors, good emperors I think they were called, and that his death marks the end of the Pax Romana. Internal weaknesses, you probably should use this. The second essay is the reasons for the fall of Rome, so you could add in these internal weaknesses, which are, corruption, slave labor, lack of education, restless poor. Divide between the rich and the poor is another reason why. The emperors following, it should say, with each other with violence is part of the problem of the imperial crisis. And here it is. This will be one of the reasons for the fall of the Western Roman Empire, that during the imperial crisis, there were 26 emperors within 50 years. Economic problems. Civil wars were expensive, taxes were raised, and this is a big thing. Debasing is not in your book, but it's on the exam. And what debasing is adding cheap metal to silver and gold coins, and taking out some of the precious metals. Instead of 100% gold coin, 100% silver coin, there was 50% or 25% gold, and the rest was a cheaper metal. And so this caused inflation, and the merchants raised their prices, which then led to hyperinflation. Another reason for the fall of Rome is the foreign invaders. Another reason for the fall of Rome is the empire's size was too big. Eventually, the Persians captured an emperor and executed him. and then the barbarians came across the border and attacked Rome. We know Diocletian tried to make the empire more stable. He's on the exam as well. In your mind, you should be thinking Diocletian divided. He took over the east. He had a friend take over the west. Then Constantine is the one, not only did he convert to Christianity, but he moved the capital then to a place called Byzantium. He renamed it Nueva Roma, which is New Rome, and then after he died it was called Constantinople. Later on, today that city's called Istanbul. The Huns necessarily didn't really bring down the Western Roman Empire directly, but it was indirectly. They pushed the Goths, the Germanic barbarians, and then when they came across the Danube River, then the Romans mistreated them. They revolted, and then they were really the ones that brought down Western Rome. Well, the Huns had a small part in it, but it was more of they started a chain reaction of events. German Goths crushed the Roman legions in Adrianople, and then they realized that they could win against the Romans finally, and Goths and other Germans started streaming into the empire. Theodosius, you need to know that he made the Christianity the official religion. Odoacer is on the exam for sure, Germanic leader who raided the Western Roman Empire, and he deposed the last emperor, Romulus Augustus. He became the king then of the Western Roman Empire, the first non-Roman to be the king, and so he's on the exam for sure. All right, and then the Eastern Roman Empire stuck around for another 100 years. All right, so here's the exam. Here are the exam questions. Number 1. Listen, describe the factors that aided the spread of Christianity across the empire. You should say good roads, safe travel, the appeal to the poor, common language was Greek, and the scriptures were written in Greek. And then lastly, if you want to put about the martyrs, that would be something that would be good as well. And remember, this needs to be complete sentences, and you need to do some extra adding on about how those things helped to spread Christianity. Then lastly, for topic 2, main reasons for the fall. Here they are: economic issues, debasing the currency, foreign enemies invading, especially the barbarians and the Germanic people, poor leadership. You could describe some of the poor leadership, the gap that started growing between the rich and the poor. And then you could talk about the empire's borders were just too large to defend. All right, so that's the essay. Let me describe what the exam is sort of gonna look like. You are going to have 15 multiple choice, then a set of 10 matching, and that matching is going to come out of the key terms list. And because you're watching the video, and because I'm such a friendly human being, here they are: deify, mosaic, satire, baptism, martyr, parables, inflation, mercenary, gospels, orator. And then there is a set of 10 fill in the blank, and then a set of 10 matching of important people. And this will be my last bit of advice I'll give you, because again, I am so friendly. Here they are: Constantine, Jesus, Diocletian, Attila, Augustus, Cicero, Pontius Pilate, Paul, Theodosius, and Odoacer. I've told you all way too much, but I wanted to give you an advantage for watching my video. Take care and good luck.